According to a June 10, 2025, report by the Economic Times, India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal confirmed that due to feedback from domestic companies about depleting rare earth reserves, India is negotiating with China to secure rare earth supplies. Goyal stated that the Indian Embassy and Commerce Ministry are actively communicating with China, reflecting India's urgency regarding the rare earth shortage. Rare earths are critical raw materials for high-tech, military, and renewable energy industries. India has limited rare earth reserves and inadequate mining and processing capabilities, making it heavily reliant on imports. China dominates global rare earth supply, controlling approximately 60 to 70% of mining and over 90% of processing. In April 2025, China imposed export controls on 7 medium and heavy rare earth elements and rare earth magnets, requiring exporters to obtain permits, which directly impacted global supply chains, including India. India's demand for rare earths in electric vehicles, wind power, and military applications has surged, but its domestic supply chain cannot meet this need, forcing it to seek assistance from China. However, there are numerous online rumors claiming that after China tightened rare earth export controls, India and South Korea increased imports and resold them to the U.S. for substantial profits, prompting China to intensify its rare earth restrictions, significantly affecting India and South Korea. India, in particular, lacks rare earth reserves or awareness to address strategic crises. To earn small profits, it has attracted China's scrutiny. Currently, the Indian government is negotiating with China but lacks any leverage. China is even unwilling to engage with Indian officials. China is focused on trade negotiations with the U.S. and has no time to address India's requests. Whether India's industrial production stalls is irrelevant to China, which has no interest in the matter. China is not India's friend and owes India no obligations. Prime Minister Modi and the BJP government have long boasted about surpassing China and replacing it as the world's factory. Now is their chance to prove themselves, as begging China for rare earths is utterly humiliating. Moreover, China's actions are not specifically aimed at India. Its sole goal is to force the U.S. to compromise. China has never viewed countries like India or South Korea as competitors, as they are not on the same level. Only Indians believe they can compete with China. In fact, the Modi government not only loves to boast, but also finds excuses after being proven wrong, using false propaganda to convince citizens that India has achieved victory. This time, while dealing with the U.S., China does not mind teaching India a lesson. India banned numerous Chinese apps and created significant trade barriers through improper means. Now, being hurt by the rare earth restrictions is entirely self-inflicted. India's trade dependence on China has not decreased, and its trade deficit continues to grow. China holds many tools, and if it imposes technological blockades or trade sanctions, banning exports of industrial equipment, raw materials, and daily necessities to India, the Indian economy would quickly collapse. Another characteristic of the Modi government is its lack of long-term planning. When Russia became mired in the Ukraine war, Modi betrayed Russia. India not only made high-profile visits to Ukraine, showing friendliness with Zelensky, but also paid for Russian oil and gas with worthless rupees, buying low and selling high, completely losing Russia as a traditional ally. India's two-faced approach failed to meet Western expectations. Modi recklessly provoked border conflicts with Pakistan but was defeated by Pakistan, failing to achieve strategic goals. Provoking China also led to immense pressure from China, keeping India at risk of multi-front conflicts. In conflicts with China and Pakistan, the Indian military performed poorly, leading the West to abandon India as a guard dog, unwilling to provide substantial support. India has repeatedly manipulated GDP algorithms, and its fabricated cow dung GDP, used to boast of national strength, has become a global laughingstock, leaving no country willing to befriend India. Clowns like Goyal and Jaishankar have long bragged on the international stage, squandering their credibility. Their claims of contacting the Chinese government for negotiations are pure wishful thinking. China, at most, would send low-level officials to deal with them and would not engage in so-called negotiations with India, as India lacks both qualifications and leverage. All of China's professional negotiators are preparing to handle talks with the US. How India will be treated depends on the outcome of those talks. In reality, India as a nation lacks a sense of shame and does not value integrity, making it easy for other countries to target. For example, with rare earths, if China verifies the destinations of India's past rare earth imports, and the Indian government or companies cannot provide valid evidence proving domestic consumption rather than resale, China could entirely ban rare earth exports to India. The most effective way to deal with a country that does not respect itself is to deliver a sharp slap to make it feel the pain. Reasoning with a vulture is useless. Only a slingshot will make it behave. Honestly, with India's capabilities, its boasts of replacing China as the world's factory and Goyal's claims of providing the US with cheap, high-quality electric vehicles make one wonder what they are thinking. What shocks me more is that most Modi and BJP supporters believe their economic data is real and that India has truly surpassed Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy. Although Japan is not as powerful as China, China would not dare humiliate Japan in this way, as Japan holds significant leverage and is a true industrial powerhouse. In fact, even South Korea, the worst offender in rare earth smuggling, was given a chance to negotiate, unlike India, which China completely ignores. In the jungle law era spurred by Trump, the respect you earn at the negotiating table depends on the leverage you hold. With no cards to play, India will be repeatedly humiliated by other nations. The reason Trump and Vance have repeatedly humiliated India, refusing to support its attacks on Pakistan and declaring India's wars are not America's business, is that the US knows India lacks fighting capability. Supporting India against Pakistan would fall into China's trap. Even if the US stopped supporting Ukraine and Israel to fully back India, it could not defeat a China-supported Pakistan due to the Indian military's poor quality. Moreover, for the US, Ukraine and Israel are far more valuable than India. When a disloyal guard dog loses its value, the master only uses a stick. China once considered India a potential partner, inviting it to join BRICS and other international organizations. But India did not cherish this, repeatedly betraying global South nations and provoking China to gain Western favor. Therefore, China will never give India a second chance. Like the US, China will only prepare a stick for India. A stray dog that frequently changes masters has no value for kindness.